subscribe to our YouTube channel, Joy Learning TV.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Joy Learning. Like I always say, today is still science, and then we are going to do what we've been doing every time and then whenever we meet. So today we are not actually going to talk about something different. It's about what we did previously. So we would want to actually delve better into getting to know the question that I posed or gave to you the last time. So please rush into your rooms, into your school bags, get your books, your pens, and let's see whether you have the answers that I gave you right. Okay. Now, before I go to talk about the question, my name is always Opoku, and I'm always a science facilitator for junior high schools. Now, let's go straight to the question that I gave you the last time. Fortunately for you, if you can remember, we were able to solve all the questions. So I actually gave you an extra one that I expected all of you to sit down, per what we discussed the last time, get the answers to them, and then we see how it goes. So the question that came all of a sudden into my mind was, why do housefly feed by regurgitation? Why do housefly feed by regurgitation? So I know you are just mumming with your answer. Yes? Okay, let's see whether whatever you have to say is actually true. Now, we know that the housefly doesn't have teeth, or like I say, the housefly do not have the mammalian teeth to feed. So unfortunately or fortunately, it has what is called mouth pads that are called proboscis. Unfortunately, what happens is whenever it wants to feed, the first thing it must do is to regurgitate, that is, give or release what is called digestive juice onto any material that is available for it to feed on. Now, when it does that, then it means that the regurgitation process, or what it gave out, is supposed to change the complex material or food that it wants to feed on from it being complex to a very simple form. When it happens like that, with time you see that because it's a bit of liquid, it starts to evaporate. Now, with time, it now then slip or draw the liquid out of whatever it intends to feed. So let's see here. The housefly feeds by regurgitation due to the nature of its mouth pads known as proboscis. It must first secrete digestive juice on the food, and then the juice secreted breaks the food down to the simpler forms. As the juice dries off, the housefly then slips the liquid out of the food. Was that your answer? If that was your answer, then thumbs up again. Good. If unfortunately you couldn't get everything right, don't worry. I know by now you are so abreast of current issues, so you know exactly how the housefly feeds. Okay. So when I met you the last time, actually delve into what the housefly is or was. What are some of the, or what is the life cycle of the housefly? We spoke about what a life cycle is, and then we spoke at length about linking it to the human life, whereby a baby is born, a baby toddles, becomes a child, adolescent, a man, a woman, grows up, old age catches him or her, and then unfortunately, the person passes on to the other life. Okay. Today, we are going to talk about something quite different from what we spoke about or experienced the last time. So today, the subtopic is, how is it, or how do activities of housefly actually affect us as humans? What do they give to us in return? As in, when they come to feed on us, what do they give to us? So that is what will be the discussion for today, how the activities of the housefly affect humans. And before we go there, we have to just rush and go straight to our objectives, what we intend achieving by the end of today's lesson. By the end of the strand, the learner will be able to, one, describe how the activities of the housefly affect humans in terms of A, transfer diseases such as dysentery or dysentery. So, yes, how does this housefly actually help in giving us dysentery? B, food poisoning. C, nuisance in the environment. Then we go to 2. We have to design interventions that can reduce the effects of the activities of the housefly on humans. So you and I would have to sit, talk, and then think of certain ways by which we can more or less mitigate the activities of the housefly as far as the human population is concerned. Last but not the least is we have to educate people of our community about these interventions so that they can actually put them into practice to also better save their lives from these mouth parts houseflies. All right, let's go straight. We discussed also the last time that the housefly is one of the most common housefly or flies that is very, very seen around human beings. And we said that the reason is that I actually did what is called a hypothesis. I said that the reason is that I believe they feel that when they come closer to human beings, they would actually get food to feed on. And so they actually travel to wherever man or human is available. You don't actually care about what kind of temperature human being find him or herself. The point is they want to get close to human beings for purposes only known to them. So the housefly is one of the most widely distributed insects. Even though seen to be the only fly with closest association with human, it is considered a greater threat to human welfare than any other species of non-biting fly. Even though it doesn't bite, it doesn't have the teeth, or the mouth part is just designed into ways that it cannot actually bite you, just as a mosquito or other fly would do. Then it does something else that is quite different from what the other flies would do, and that is what we would actually delve or go deeper into it and then realize why and what is the reason for doing that. The housefly can be a vector of more than 1 million bacteria on their bodies and can transfer these to contaminate surfaces and food. So the housefly basically is a carrier. It actually avails itself, or it's more or less like a vessel through which pathogens from wherever they are gets to human beings. So it's more or less like a channel or a medium through which these pathogens are carried. When I talk about pathogens, I'm talking about disease-causing organisms. That can be bacterial, that can be virus, that can be fungi, protozoa, and the rest. So how do these disease-causing organisms move from wherever they were or they are to human lives? And like I said, the housefly is a vector, is a carrier of these pathogens into the lives of humans. The common housefly can transmit the pathogens that cause disease such as shigellosis, typhoid fever, E. coli, and cholera. So we have disease called shigellosis, we have typhoid fever, we have E. coli, and then we have cholera. Now scientists have actually developed or come with knowledge to the extent that the housefly alone can transmit as many as 1 million bacteria in its lifetime. So if per a year, the housefly would have 12 generations, if all things being equal, if it doesn't come into contact with any hazard, let's say you probably threw a napkin or something and killed it, and then it was safe throughout the whole year, it means that it would have actually produced to the 12th generation. So if one housefly can carry about 1 million bacteria, then just think about you having 12 generations of that housefly in a year. Then we are thinking about so many bacteria actually carried from wherever they are to human lives. Now, the disease-causing agent, that is the housefly, can transmit the pathogens by their body hairs or by their tarsi, which are transmitted to food or surfaces when the fly lands. So it simply means that the housefly is always in search of food. So as it moves from one area to the other, the main purpose is to find food, feed on, and then whatever it has in return will also give it out. Now, whenever we say the housefly actually carries some of these pathogens on their bodies, on their hairs, and in the tarsi are actually the bones on which the limbs get attached to the body. So if I'm talking about my tarsi as a human being, I'm talking about this kind of bones. Okay, this kind of bone. Okay, so as they feed, some of the bacteria can actually climb onto them and get to this type or this kind of bone, or even more, everywhere. And as they move from wherever they fed on either vegetable or dead organism or fecal matter to any other place it settles, then it means that it then deposits or leaves these pathogens on the surfaces it now lands. Also, pathogens from the fly can come as a result of regurgitating onto the food in order for the fly to liquefy bacteria for digestion. So, as a way of actually producing digestive juice on the food it wants to feed on, in a way, it also produces this bacteria from its own body or its own digestive tract onto any material or any feed it finds. Now let's go to a picture of the regurgitation process of a housefly. Please, this scene is actually something else, but it's science, so you can't actually complain. So it's actually coming out with a yellowish liquid from its mouth parts or the proboscis. So that is how it gives out these digestive juices in order to be able to regurgitate or feed on the food it intends to eat. How can the housefly transfer disease such as dysentery? Due to the material on which the housefly feeds, it carries fecal matter and other disease-causing organisms on its body, which I have explained earlier. It then leaves these on the surfaces of food when they land, thereby causing various sicknesses and diseases when someone pick these bacteria. So you may actually, the housefly may actually hover around in the house, settle on the kitchen counter, or let's say on a plate, or on the floor, or anywhere. And mistakenly or unknowingly, you may also probably move your hand towards direction, and then in a way you have picked the bacteria that the housefly actually deposited or left on those surfaces. And as it gets into your system, you are likely vulnerable to be affected by these diseases. Now we have a type. I was so much enthused with this type of dysentery because I actually wanted us to have a fair idea. There are actually various dysenteries, but let's delve a bit into what kind of dysentery is amoebic dysentery. Amoebic dysentery is a type of dysentery that is caused by amoeba. So amoeba is also the kind of unicellular organisms. When I say that, I'm talking about these organisms who have only one cell. So if there is any break on any of the cell or the cell that it has, what happens is that it just leaves the surface or leaves this earth. Because it has only one cell, any break or any damage on the cell, there can't be any replenish on those cells. So as soon as there's a break, it goes off. So like we have amoeba, we have euglena, we have paramecium, and the rest. All these are examples of what is called unicellular organisms that have only one cell. Unlike us, when I say us, I'm talking about human beings, I'm talking about animals, I'm talking about plants. Because we are multicellular, we have more than one cell. So when there's any break on any cell, with time you see that due to the foods that we eat, there will be replenished or there will be repair of one of our tissues. The more we eat these kind of protective food and then bodybuilding foods and energy-giving food and all that, they help by actually repairing one of our tissues. So any tissue or any cell that is broken will be repaired in the long run. Okay, amoebic dysentery is an intestinal infection caused by protozoan parasite called Entamoeba histolytica. Entamoeba histolytica. Infection by Entamoeba histolytica may be asymptomatic. Whenever we say, when you have this type of disease or this amoebic dysentery, it means that when you say asymptomatic, it means you may not show any sign of the illness. You may not have any sign. So with time, you may not actually know that you're actually suffering from what is called Entamoeba histolytica or amoebic dysentery. So as you contract this kind of disease, you wouldn't have, or you wouldn't show any sign or symptoms of that. And the symptoms which may actually show up in case it does include fever, chills, diarrhea, abdominal pain, and passing stool with blood and or mucus. Entamoeba histolytica may invade one's liver to cause abscess. When we say it invades your liver, it means that it attacks your liver, just as we know about coronavirus. Because it actually the virus goes into your system to tackle first your immune system or your immunity. What it does is it must just focus on your immunity and breaks it down so that your body becomes weak. You know, the white blood cells are supposed to give you what is called immunity. They provide every normal human being with the strength to be able to resist or withstand certain diseases and viruses. But if the white blood cells are broken down, then it means that every other disease can get into you or that can actually happen to you. Now, when it happens or it attacks the liver, it causes what is called abscess. Now, what is abscess? Abscess is just an inflammation of a body part whereby you may have a whitish or a white blood cell being pushed out. When I say pushed out, it actually bulges out of the skin. You wouldn't have a normal skin as you have, more like a blister, whereby you have more of like boil, some sort of, but when you look through it, you will see yellow-like whitish colors in there, and these are actually abscess. So, as we commonly call it in our local parlance as aswa, anase, ahono, that kind of thing, you know. So when that happens to you, then it means that there is a big problem. Let's go on. Uncommonly, it spreads to other parts of the body, such as the lungs or brain. So it is not so common for it to actually extend from the liver to this part, but then when it does, then it means that it's dangerous, because as soon as it gets to your brain, actually your brain controls your whole body. Before you are able to actually say jack or move anything in your body, is by the a spark of the brain. Okay, that is why I always say that when somebody actually pushes his or her hand into fire, it is the how do you call it, the nerves that will send the signal to your spinal cord and then goes back into the brain. Now, when it gets into the brain will also give a response so that you actually be able to react to stimuli, whereby you will draw your hand from the fire. So until your hand, until the brain sends that message, that means that your hand will forever be there. So if there's any injury on the brain, then it means that if your hand is even in the fire, okay, the nerve may actually send the signal to the spinal cord. So if from the nerves at the fingers, goes through your body, goes through your spinal cord at your back, comes to your brain, and the brain must also give a reaction through the same spinal cord, comes to the nerves, and then you draw your hand. So if there's any injury on the brain, before you realize, you're already bent. Other complications include inflammation of the intestine and, in severe cases, perforation. When we say your intestine is actually inflamed, it simply means that it's actually swell or it's swollen to a point whereby you can't actually do anything about it. So it's been inflamed, like a honkono, that kind of thing. So in severe cases, you may also have perforations in your intestines. So perforations means that there's poking of holes in the intestines. Just imagine your intestine being perforated. So it means that whatever content that is supposed to be in the intestine will actually come out. So more or less like internal bleeding. Not with the blood actually, but this one with food content. Whatever you have is supposed to store or get stored in the stomach or intestine, go through digestion and all that. But if whatever food you have in there through the small and large intestines are actually perforated to the point that any food particles or substance in there are being moved into other parts of the body, then, my dear brother and sister, you are just very close to your grave, unfortunately. Now, amoebic dysentery or dysentery occurs mainly through the fecal-oral route. We have the fecal-oral route, and this simply means that before you can get this type of dysentery, it means you have ingested a fecal matter. So it means you have eaten a fecal matter. So including ingestion of fecal contaminated food or water caused by housefly containing the cyst of Entamoeba histolytica. So whenever you take in or you ingest or you eat any food or you take in water that contains any fecal matter, then it means you are likely to have amoebic dysentery, and then which is actually caused by the housefly. And unfortunately, the Entamoeba histolytica is working in your body, unfortunately. So this is a clear example of the food actually looks so appetizing, but unfortunately, you can actually guess by what the guy is doing. So you can tell that the guy has actually eaten food that has been poisoned. So, I mean, it's already in your tummy. What do you do? Absolutely zilch. Nothing. You can't do anything about it, unfortunately. You've already eaten the food that is contaminated with these fecal matter. And so, or taking any drinks or new water that contains these things. So, my dear, you have to actually face or carry the cross of going through the whole process. The whole process is by finding solutions to that. And before you get that solutions to it, please, you will suffer. It wouldn't be on the silver platter. Okay, so let's go to how the housefly contaminates food or poisons food. Did you know the housefly has been proven scientifically as the vector of food poisoning on many occasions? Did you know? Okay. Classical epidemics of foodborne infections during such as typhoid epidemics. When I say epidemics, I'm talking about scientists or doctors whose specialty is in the area of actually identifying disease-causing organisms and also finding solutions to these problems or disease or sicknesses. So we call them epidemiologists. They're actually doctors that delve into knowing what are the causes of certain diseases and what are the solutions or the cure to prevent these diseases, and what ways can you actually prevent them in entirety. Okay, so when I say classical epidemics, I'm talking about traditional epidemiologists, so way back, of foodborne infections such as typhoid epidemics among soldiers during the Boer and Spanish-American Wars, detected more than 20,000 cases, of which diarrhea in Southend-on-Sea in 1901 were all traced to the contamination of food by flies. So way back in 1901 or 1901, that was when these epidemics or epidemiologists were able to identify that houseflies actually contaminate food. And there were about more than 200 cases that existed when there was a war between the countries that I've mentioned, or Southend, and then the other areas. The housefly has many ways by which food is made unwholesome for the consumption by humans. So, in as much as it may lay eggs on your food, in as much as it will actually carry fecal matter onto the food, in as much as it will also carry fecal matter or bacteria on certain surfaces, which you may accidentally rub your hand and then carry or take these bacteria. It can also regurgitate on food, whereby bacteria may be present in or on the surface on which it regurgitated. Some of the ways in which the housefly causes food to be poisoned include, so we are going to talk about the areas or how that this housefly actually cause what is called food poisoning. So one, almighty regurgitation, we can't grow without it, unfortunately. This is a process that many flies adapt to feed. Reason being that it lacks teeth that would aid them break complex food into simple and soluble in their body. I don't think I'm supposed to go over again because I've done it over and over again, so there's no need for me to go over and over again. All right. Regurgitation involves the release of digestive juice onto the material to be fed. Good. Now, as the digestive juice on the food dries up, it also brings the complex food to simple forms, making it easier for the body of the housefly to work on it when it gets into the body or its. As a result, the housefly slurps or draws liquid from the material. Houseflies must liquefy food before ingesting it by placing spongy mouthparts called proboscis on the food or secreting saliva or regurgitated guts content onto them. This is very clear because I've explained it earlier previously in the first class, so I don't think it's even needed. I know you are just smart, so you have it. The pathogens that can hurt humans are spread by flies through the food liquefying process called regurgitation. So as they release those digestive juice onto the food with the intention of actually slurping or drawing the liquid, they give out the bacteria onto the surface or onto the food. Now, this is a picture of the housefly that is liquefying or drawing or slurping. So this is where it's actually produces the digestive juice again. And then we have this as the slurping or drawing liquid moment, whereby it now draws the liquid content from the food. Number 2, so the first one is by regurgitating. That is one way by which the housefly can actually cause food poisoning. The other way is when the housefly becomes a vector of diseases. The houseflies are vectors of many diseases, among which typhoid and dysentery or dysentery are no exception. Musca domestica, that is the scientific name of the housefly. So when you hear Musca domestica, it means it is the scientific name for houseflies. The scientific name for the housefly is known to carry different kinds of pathogens, depending on which type of material it fed on. It carries pathogens of different nature when it feeds on bacteria such as vegetables, fecal matter, dead organisms, thereby transmitting the pathogens from the fed-on material onto the new one as soon as it lands. These pathogens they carry in the long run different diseases of which are very terrible to the lives of humans. So it simply means that as the housefly feeds on these contaminated materials, they, in a way, I don't know what actually they know or they don't know, but I feel in the long run, probably they may know. They carry these pathogens on their body. Like I told you, they can be on their tarsi, on the hair, or on their skin. So as they move from where they fed on the contaminated material onto a new surface or a new area, they now deposit or leave those bacteria or these pathogens on the new environment. So if the housefly actually went and fed on a dead body, or let's say carcass of an animal, and then unfortunately it carried these pathogens from that place, and unfortunately because you're also cooking, you have actually dished out your food on your plate with the intention that, oh okay, I just want to run errands and then come pick it up. Your food wasn't covered. So it also came and settled on the food. The main reason for it settling on the food is to feed on the food. But as it lands on the food, unfortunately, you don't know where it's coming from. So it has picked, or it has actually accommodated these pathogens, carried them from wherever they were onto the food. And because the food was also not covered, you pick it up, you eat, and then you get what is called food poisoning. Okay. Some of the disease that these pathogens give these are quite a lot. So I will take my time and mention them one after the other. I'm not sure anybody actually will ask you to name some of them. I know in case somebody should even ask you, the common one you can talk about is what I told you. So about cholera, about typhoid fever, we know about dysentery. 3 is enough. Or if you want, you can add E. coli. Or, okay, I know I'll ask you that one. All right, some of the diseases that they gave are Salmonella enteritidis. That's a form of food poisoning. We also have Bacillus anthracis. That's from anthrax. And anthrax is, when you have anthrax, it's very, very deadly. Trust me, very, very deadly. It's, and when any livestock actually get infected with anthrax and then you feed on the flesh of that, my dear, you will also get anthrax. you will get it. So they are called zoonosis. That's the term I was looking for, zoonosis. Then we have poliovirus that causes poliomyelitis. We have Mycobacterium tuberculosis, that is MTB. These are actually pathogens or causative organisms of these diseases. So that's also called tuberculosis. Then we have Mycobacterium leprae. That also causes what is called leprosy, among others. The housefly becomes a vector as it lands on any material that contains these pathogens. So whenever it carries them and lands, it just deposits them there. The pathogens get attached to the mouth, legs, or the fine hair on their body, and upon landing releases these to the new surface or material, which may be food, among other things. So this is how the housefly is. So it feeds from any walks of life, from the fecal matter of human, from that of livestock, anything. So the red spots that you have at this side, if you are all seeing this one, shows the pathogens that are being carried on the tarsi of the housefly. And this one is also showing the eggs that will come out from the housefly. And then the other one is also showing the antenna on which these pathogens may also be found or located. So the antenna, I'm talking about these two on top of the housefly. 3, laying of eggs on food material. The housefly lays its eggs that take a maximum of 24 hours to hatch into maggots. So when that happens, you may actually consume maggots unknowingly because it has laid the eggs onto the food. The food that may not be covered may have the eggs of the housefly if the housefly lands on it, which I've already explained before. And as this happens, it lays its eggs, which will no time develop into maggots on the food, leading to various diseases when the food is consumed. So as the food is eaten, then this is actually the maggots. Actually, this site that you don't want to look at it again. So how did the housefly cause nuisance in the environment or to the environment? The nuisance caused by the housefly is really irritating as it works on you when you are in the midst of something. You may be doing something and then all attention will be on whatever you are doing. Before you realize the housefly is actually hovering around you, creating some sounds, and then it's just irritating and annoying. And then when you also cook outside your kitchen, that also would happen if these houseflies are available in your area. Now let's go to the intervention. So what do you do to mitigate or lessen the activities of these housefly on humans? That's the measures or intervention that can reduce the activities of the housefly on humans are countless. We have many of them. But I'm told when we talk about those that are proven to be more efficacy, those that are correct, they give you valid results. So we have one which I will term or is termed as cultural control. The cultural control method involves changing the environment to prevent the housefly from developing. So you change your whole environment, your whole setting, to actually stop or mitigate the activities of the housefly. The best cultural method is to properly dispose of any organic matter such as vegetable or other food products where houseflies might lay eggs. So wherever you think it's actually a condition for houseflies to lay the eggs, you must get them away. Clear every area whereby you feel that the housefly may actually lay their eggs. Place these materials in garbage cans or bags and securely tie the garbage bag. So you don't just deposit your trash into the bin and then leave it. You must tie it up. Remove all food residues and clean your garbage cans weekly. So the garbage cans must be cleaned weekly. It's not like you leave it for like a week more, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. No. It's even develop into certain kind of, and then because it's open and then it's just not taken from there, it becomes say a platform or a place for other flies to actually breed. So this is the best way by which you can actually keep your garbage. Yeah. All right. There are other cultural methods to keep houseflies out of homes and businesses, and one of them is installing doors that open and close mechanically. You know, when you go to some doors actually have what is called sensors. So as soon as you get closer to it, the door opens by itself. You walk through and then it closes by itself. So that's also one way by which you can actually lessen that of houseflies or mitigate the activities of housefly. And then you can also place exhaust or blowers above doors. So you may have more of, it's not like a fan, but it blows more wind or more air into the environment. So what happens is that when you have any door or any window whereby it's not so secure to the point whereby you think houseflies can actually pass through and get to you, you put these blowers there and then they clear all any housefly that may actually come into contact. At times, they may not even be the air. They may introduce some things into the environment. It may be toxic for the housefly. For example, some people, when you go to some people's homes and then they have some kind of, some kind of perfume whereby it's placed in a corner. So with time, you see that it releases certain gas to actually make the environment or the room so nice to actually live in. Then keeping windows screened and doors closed at all times. Also, sticky traps and then ultraviolet light traps may also be used. Now, the sticky traps is very common. It's more or less like commonly like what we call kwakwe, whatever. Yeah, I mean for the mouse. What happens is that you buy the sticky trap and then you put them on the floor. Make sure you don't put them very close to windows or doors. Okay, it can actually last for 3 months. So you can leave it there and then just go away. And then it will collect as many houseflies as and when they come to it. Place sticky traps at fly-infested area where there is little or no air movement, that is, there is no wind. This must be placed on the floor since majority of housefly activities occurs on the floor. The strips are effective for up to 3 months before they can be completely covered. Also, the light traps can be used, but make sure the light of the trap is not visible from the outside so that it will not attract more other flies. So, when you have the sticky trap, what happens is you just put them on the surface of wherever you want it to be. It can be on the kitchen counter, on the floor, wherever you think the houseflies mostly come to land. And then just, close your mind over it. With time, you will see a whole pack, so many houseflies being stuck onto the sticky trap. There's another one which is also called the ultraviolet trap. With that, what happens is you might just set it up in your room. Whenever you're setting it up in a room, make sure you don't draw it very close to the windows or there's no excessive sun rays on it. As you do it, it will also do what is called magical for you. Let's see. Also, in darker areas, place them away from the bright light and sunlight. Okay. Ooh. Wow. All right. Good. So this is a clear picture of what is called a sticky trap. So you put them there like that, as many as you can buy in your homes. And then magic will be done in a spark of light. Magic is done. And this is what is called the ultraviolet light or trap, whereby the light actually pulls or draws these houseflies onto them. And then when they get there, then they are actually caught by the whole process, whereby they cannot actually move out of it. There are other traps or more of ultraviolet light traps whereby you have the light blinking in there. So it has the scent of fruit that will attract the flies. As the flies get in there, there's no way for you to actually escape. Okay. Then we have the chemical control method. So whatever we discussed or we spoke about is a cultural control method. This is the use of chemical products to reduce the presence and or the population of the housefly in an environment. So when I say chemical, I know you can guess or you can give me examples. Like yes, I know. And did you mention the mosquito coils? Did you mention the mosquito sprays? Good. They are all good products chemically for the control of this type of flies called houseflies or Musca domestica. This method cannot be done forever since the cycle of the housefly does not take long for new generations to evolve or to come into existence. Some of the products that could be used to mitigate the activities or population of the housefly include using mosquito coils, mosquito sprays, among others. Traditionally, actually, way back in the olden days when mosquito coils were not actually common, what my grandmother used to do was this. He would just pick up empty crates of egg, put them at areas where she feels that houseflies or mosquitoes may actually hover around, then light them up. Please light them and then quench the fire so that it will just burn by the smoke. And as the smoke moves around the whole area, it creates that atmosphere which is so bad to the point that the houseflies and mosquitoes wouldn't even dare to even come close. And this one is actually done mostly in the evenings. But if you want to do it, say in a room or in a corridor or in a place where you think the housefly is too much, of course you can do it. So that is also one. And then you can also burn dry citrus peels, like orange peels that are dried, tangerine peels that are dried. Get them and then just burn them. As you burn them, then all these houseflies will go away because of the scent that will be generated or produced as you burn these citrus fruit. Then we go to the biological method, which is not common actually. Parasitic wasps and fire ants suppress housefly population naturally. In order to apply this method, one must order fly pupae from insectaries. Insectaries are people or areas where insects are actually reared or breed. It's actually not common in Ghana, but when you go to the advanced world, there's lots of them. When you go to the Canadian regions there, the Russia and all those things, because they have people who are entomologists. They delve or learn about flies and all those insects. But because they do that, they have much idea about it. And what they do is that they look for housefly pupa or pupa that has been infested with parasite, and then they just introduce them into the environment so that any housefly that will lay any egg, this parasite will affect the egg that has been laid and then kill all of them. So in a way, it's more or less reducing the generations that are yet to come for more houseflies to be present. Pupa already infected with parasites can be spread around the homes or near housefly-prone areas. Place the pupa away from direct sunlight and where they will not be stepped on. So you put them in areas where probably people will not be walking around and stepping on them. Areas where you think they'll be safe. This is not harmful to people or animals, but for complete elimination of housefly population. So if you want to completely just stop these generation of houseflies, then this can also work. But if you actually want to do more of taking away houseflies, then the best way for you to do is to actually practice more all of this. So if you can't afford to probably buy the housefly pupa, why am I saying mosquito? Do you know why I'm saying mosquito? Because they all have this, actually they all have the same life cycle. But if you want to have or go buy them, if it's not common, you can do the normal one that is common in Ghana, whereby you do the cultural, you can also do the chemical, because the biological is not so common here in Ghana. All right, now it's time for you and I. What interventions do you think we can just design or put up to lessen or mitigate these activities of the houseflies? What do we do? Now we know that we can talk about the biological control method, talk about the cultural control method, can also talk about the chemical control method. That is right. Now, how do we educate or talk to community members so that they can also get these control methods implemented in their homes to reduce houseflies? Remember, if you think that you do it alone, housefly always hover from home to home. So I have done my part by clearing or getting rid of all the houseflies in my house. But it doesn't mean that they cannot fly from your home to my home. So let's get houseflies in my home, in your home, in the whole neighborhood, and then in the whole country at large. So you discuss the dangers houseflies bring to mankind. That is the disease that they can cause, the eggs they can lay on foods, the poison they can introduce to water bodies or of water that we drink and food stuffs. So when you educate people on all these things, then they will also actually come to terms with the fact that, oh, okay, that is why these things are actually happening to us. Then we have to actually be on guard and know what we do. So we discuss the dangers houseflies bring to mankind and also have the available methods in killing them to stakeholders of the community so that they can as well inform the people of the community in order to stay healthy. So the stakeholders here can be people that have the community at heart. So it may be the MP, the assemblyman, assemblywoman, the chiefs, the queen, the chiefs and other stakeholders. So you just talk to them. Then they also know what to do by organizing a debate or something to also educate the members in the community to know what you do. All right, let's go straight to the questions. Describe how the activities of the housefly affect humans in terms of. So these are the questions that I have for you. Please write them in about 30 seconds. 30 seconds, please write them. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Good. So these are the questions that I have for you, 1 and 2. But 1 has 2 parts and then 2 is a single one. The 2 you have to design intervention that can help to mitigate the activities of housefly on humans. I've always been Opoku Nyako. Until I come to your homes again next time, I say bye-bye. And then, all the best.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Joy Learning TV.